You're staring at a PC that someone threw out. Maybe you found it on Craigslist for $50. Maybe it was sitting in a closet at your office, tagged for disposal. And the first thing most people do is assume it's dead weight, not worth the time, not worth the effort. But here's what nobody tells you. That junk machine is probably 3 targeted upgrades away from outperforming a brand new $500 system from Best Buy. I'm not talking about light use. I'm talking about web development, video editing prep, running virtual machines, handling your daily productivity stack without breaking a sweat. The electronics industry spends billions of dollars every year convincing you that last year's hardware is worthless. That's not a coincidence. That's a business model, and today we're going to dismantle it, literally and figuratively. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to evaluate a cheap office cast-off, identify its real bottlenecks, and execute a surgical upgrade path that maximizes every dollar you spend. This isn't a feel-good recycling video. This is an engineering decision framework dressed up as a $50 PC build. Welcome to Tech Renew Deep Dive. I'm glad you're here. If you've watched other budget PC content, you've probably seen a lot of the same thing. Someone buys a cheap machine, throws in a graphics card, benchmarks a game, calls it a day. That's not what we do here. On this channel, we approach aging hardware the way a mechanical engineer approaches a worn-out engine. Diagnostically, systematically, and with a clear understanding of which components are truly limiting performance versus which ones are just noise. I've spent years working with enterprise hardware salvage, refurbishment pipelines, and the kind of real-world upgrade testing that never makes it into mainstream tech journalism because it's not sponsored by anyone selling you something new. The framework I'm walking you through today is the same one I apply every time a machine lands on my bench. It works on Dell Optiplexes, Hewlett-Packard Elite desks, Lenovo ThinkCenters, the bread and butter of the used office machine market. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about what you're actually buying when you pick up a $50 office PC. These machines were built to a corporate procurement spec. That means they prioritize reliability, manageability, and thermal stability over raw performance. The side effect of that design philosophy is that they are almost always severely under-resourced in the areas that matter most for modern workloads. Specifically, random access memory and storage. Here's the thing. Most people don't understand about why old office machines feel so slow. It's almost never the processor. A Core i5 from the 6th or 7th generation, that's Intel's 2015 to 2017 lineup, is a genuinely capable chip. 4 cores, reasonable instructions per clock, plenty of headroom for most tasks. The reason those machines crawl is a combination of 2 factors: inadequate random access memory running in single-channel configuration and a spinning hard disk drive as the primary storage device. Let me explain why each of those is so destructive to perceived performance. Random access memory speed is measured not just in gigabytes, but in channel configuration. When you run one stick of 8 gigabytes of RAM instead of 2 sticks of 4 gigabytes each, you cut your memory bandwidth roughly in half. Memory bandwidth is how fast your processor can move data in and out of working memory. For applications that are constantly reading and writing, browsers with multiple tabs, office suites, background system processes, this creates what engineers call a memory wall. The processor is sitting there, waiting for data that the memory subsystem is too slow to deliver. That's not a processor problem, that's a configuration problem. And it costs you nothing but the price of a matching RAM stick to fix. Now let's talk about the hard disk drive situation, because this is the single biggest performance killer in any machine still running one. A traditional spinning hard disk drive has a mechanical read-write head that physically moves across a magnetic platter to retrieve data. The average seek time, that's how long it takes to locate a random piece of data, is around 8 to 12 milliseconds. A solid-state drive does the same operation in a fraction of that time. We're talking about 50 to 100 microseconds. That's not a modest improvement. That's a difference of 2 full orders of magnitude. When your operating system boots, it's performing thousands of random read operations. When you launch an application, same thing. When Chrome opens a new tab and loads your extensions, same thing. Every single one of those operations is throttled by that spinning disk sitting in your machine right now. Replacing it with a solid-state drive is the closest thing to a magic trick that exists in PC hardware. The machine feels like it was rebuilt from scratch, because in terms of the component that was actually bottlenecking 90% of daily operations, it was. So here's the real question you need to ask before you spend a single dollar on upgrades. Is this machine actually worth saving? Not every $50 PC is a diamond in the rough. Some of them are genuinely at end of life. So let me give you the evaluation checklist I run through on every machine before I commit to an upgrade path. Step 1. Identify the processor generation. Open the case, or if it's already running, hit the Windows key, type System Information, and look for the processor line. You want to see an Intel Core i5 or i7 from the 6th generation, or newer, or an AMD equivalent from the Bristol Ridge or Ryzen era onward. Anything older than that starts to run into software compatibility walls that no amount of RAM or storage upgrades will fix. Step 2. Check the motherboard for upgrade headroom. Look up the specific motherboard model. It's usually printed directly on the board, and find its maximum supported RAM. Many 6th and 7th generation boards support up to 64 gigabytes. That's more than most people will ever need. If the board caps out at 16, that's still workable. If it caps at 8, you're already at the ceiling, and the machine's usefulness has a hard limit. Step 3. Count your storage bays and interfaces. Does the machine have a 2.5-inch bay for a SATA solid-state drive? Does it have an M.2 slot? Check for both. M.2 slots are faster and don't require a data cable, which keeps the build clean. SATA solid-state drives are slightly slower, but still a massive improvement over any spinning disk and are often cheaper per gigabyte. Step 4. Inspect the power supply unit rating. Office machines typically ship with power supplies in the 180 to 300 watt range. That's usually fine for the components you'll be running, but if you're considering adding a dedicated graphics card, you need to verify you have enough headroom. A low-profile graphics card like a GTX 1650 draws around 75 watts. Add that to your existing system draw and make sure you're not pushing the power supply unit past 80% of its rated capacity. Step 5. Check for thermal paste degradation. Pull the processor cooler after grounding yourself and disconnecting power, and look at the thermal compound between the processor and the heatsink. If it's dried, cracked, or has turned into a grey dust, that compound has lost its ability to transfer heat effectively. A processor that's thermally throttling will cut its own clock speed to protect itself, and you'll never see the performance you're paying to unlock. Now let's talk about the actual upgrade path. This is where the rubber meets the road. For a typical 6th or 7th generation Intel Office machine running Windows 10 or Windows 11, your priority order should be as follows. Number 1. Replace the hard disk drive with a solid-state drive. This is non-negotiable. Don't upgrade anything else until this is done. A 500 gigabyte SATA solid-state drive from a reputable brand costs between $30 and $40. The performance delta is immediate, dramatic, and will make every subsequent upgrade feel more impactful. Number 2. Max out your RAM in dual-channel configuration. If the machine shipped with one 8 gigabyte stick, add a matching stick. If it has two 4 gigabyte sticks, consider upgrading to two 8 gigabyte sticks for 16 total. Used DDR4 RAM is absurdly cheap right now. You can find matched pairs for under $20. Make sure you seat them in the correct slots for dual-channel operation. Check your motherboard manual. It's almost always slots 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, not 1 and 2. Number 3. Repaste the processor. Arctic MX4 or Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut, two well-regarded thermal compounds, will run you under $10. Clean the old compound off with 90+% isopropyl alcohol and a lint-free cloth. Apply a small pea-sized amount to the center of the processor die and let the cooler spread it when you remount. This step alone can recover 4 to 8 degrees Celsius of thermal headroom, which on a throttled machine can translate directly into sustained clock speeds. Number 4. Clean the system. Compressed air, a soft brush, full dust removal from every heatsink fin and case intake. Dust is an insulator. A clogged heatsink is a throttled processor. This costs you nothing and should be done before you power any machine on for the first time. Number 5. Reinstall the operating system fresh. Do not migrate an old Windows installation that has years of cruft, bloatware, and corrupted registry entries baked into it. A clean Windows 11 installation on your new solid-state drive will boot in under 15 seconds and give you a baseline that accurately reflects the hardware's actual capability. Now here's the part of the video where I want to hear from you directly. What's the oldest machine you've ever successfully brought back to daily driver status? Drop it in the comments below. I've seen people running Core 2 Duo machines for specific workloads, and I genuinely want to know what you're working with. Let's talk numbers, because this is where the argument for doing this gets irrefutable. A new mid-range desktop from a major manufacturer, 8 GB of RAM, 256 GB solid-state drive, current generation low-power processor, will run you somewhere between $400 and $600. The machine we've been talking about today. $50 at acquisition, $35 for the solid-state drive, $15 for the RAM upgrade, $10 for thermal compound and isopropyl alcohol, maybe another $20 if you want to add a low-profile graphics card for light creative work. Total, $130, against a machine that will handle everything a $500 system handles for 90% of users. That's not a marginal win. That's a category-level decision that changes how you think about hardware purchasing forever. And here's the sustainability argument, because it matters and it's not being made loudly enough. Every PC manufactured requires rare earth minerals, significant water consumption, and an energy-intensive fabrication process. When a functional machine gets landfilled because its owner didn't know how to unlock its potential, that environmental cost is wasted. Twice. Once in production and once in disposal. Extending the life of a machine by 3 to 5 years through targeted upgrades is one of the highest leverage sustainability actions an individual can take. You're not just saving money, you're voting with your wrench. The right to repair movement is fighting for your legal ability to do exactly what we did today. To open hardware you own, upgrade it, and keep it running. Some manufacturers would rather that not be possible. Some would rather you buy new every 2 years, on a cycle, forever. This channel exists because that cycle is a choice, and most people don't realize they've already opted in without being asked. Subscribe if you're done opting in. New deep dives every week. We've got laptops, workstations, server hardware, and some genuinely cursed builds coming up that I think you're going to enjoy watching almost as much as I'll enjoy surviving them. I'll see you in the next one.